Tara Johnson reporting for Time live in Hoboken. Chris Christie and Andrew. Governor of New Jersey, New York just arrived.
Governor Cuomo and I have just taken a tour of the damage inside. Obviously, an extraordinary tragedy. We pray for the family of the one fatality that we have confirmed for her and for her family. We now have a revised total of injured. We have 108 injured in this accident, and all of those have been evacuated to local hospitals where they're receiving the care they need. We pray for their recovery. The engineer who was operating the train was also critically injured. He is at a local hospital and cooperating with law enforcement officials in the investigation. What we know is that this train came in at a high rate of speed into the station and crashed through all the barriers, bringing it right to the interior wall of the Hoboken terminal. Extraordinary reaction from local law enforcement, EMS, along with civilian passengers who assisted EMS and local police and state police in evacuating the trains as quickly as possible and helping with the triage of the passengers who were injured and getting them immediately to local hospitals for them to receive health care. There'll be others who will speak today about some of the specifics. Commissioner Hammer, Mr. Prendergast from the MTA, about the specifics of commuting both this afternoon and tomorrow. We won't address that specifically. Both Governor Cuomo and I come from a law enforcement background, as does the Lieutenant Governor. My admonition when I was U.S. Attorney all the time to my prosecutors and agents was, don't jump to conclusions, let the facts lead you to the proper conclusions. And so we're not going to speculate about the cause of the accident. The fact is that we're in the midst of an investigation. I was called by the White House today as well. They have not only dispatched the NTSB and the Federal Railway Administration, but also have pledged any resources that we need additionally to deal with the victims or deal with what's happened here at the Hoboken terminal. We're pleased to get that call. As I said to a number of you earlier today, from the time that the incident happened this morning, Governor Cuomo and I have been in communication since the train began its journey today in the state of New York. And we have a number of New York citizens who are on that train as well, coming here to New Jersey. And so we're going to work together to make sure that the investigation is seamless and coordinated, that we come to a conclusion as quickly as possible. And then if there are steps that need to be taken thereafter to provide for even greater assurance of safety for the people of our states, you can be assured that we'll work together through the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, MTA and New Jersey Transit to make sure that that occurs. And so we pray for the victims and their families. We are on the scene. We're going to continue to monitor what's going on. We have engineers that are examining the structural integrity of the building now. We have no estimate as to when the terminal will be able to be reopened, except to say that it appears that the PATH terminal, the structural integrity there is fine, and so that PATH trains will be able to use the terminal. As for the New Jersey Transit portion, we don't have an estimate yet on that. We're going to need some time to do that. So I want to turn this over to Governor Cuomo. We'll also have Commissioner Hammer and MTA Director Prendergast to make some comments, and then Governor Cuomo and I will come back to take on topic questions. Governor Cuomo.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to thank Governor Christie and his entire team for their outstanding response to this tragedy. Thank the Lieutenant Governor for being here and all the first responders. We know what happened. We don't know why it happened. As Governor Christie said, the train obviously came in at too high a rate of speed. It didn't stop. It went through the barriers. When you see the destruction up close, the silver lining is that there's only been one fatality thus far, because the destruction really is significant, and the power of the train coming in is obviously devastating in its impact. The 100 injured and the fatality and the critically injured, we remember them in our prayers, and we hope that there is only one fatality and it stops there. The NTSB will do a full investigation as to what happened exactly, and we'll let the facts speak for themselves. If there's something to learn from those facts after that investigation, then we will be sure to learn it and incorporate that lesson. Commissioner Hammer and MTA Chairman Prendergast are working very hard, hand in glove, in a seamless approach where New Jersey Transit is working with the MTA, is working with PATH, is working with the Port Authority to expedite tonight's commute and tomorrow's commute, because as the governor said, there's structural damage to the station itself, and we don't yet know how long that damage will take to repair or what the consequence of that damage. I would like to applaud all the first responders who did a magnificent job once again. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to say these are difficult times over these past weeks and months, between terrorist attacks, natural disasters. We've had our hands full in this country. We've had our hands full in the Northeast. I want to thank the Linden Police, who did an extraordinary job in apprehending Rahami in connection with the Chelsea bombing. And they really did a fantastic job, and I want to thank the coordination and the cooperation of our neighbors and partners in making that happen. Today is another situation for us to deal with, but I also believe as many challenges as Mother Nature sends us or our enemies send us, we are up to handling them. We'll handle them one at a time, but when we work together, there is nothing that we can't accomplish and nothing that we can't overcome. And we're going to do that with today's tragedy as well. With that, I'll turn it back to Governor Christie.
Commissioner Rick Hammer, who's the Commissioner of Transportation in New Jersey and the Chairman of New Jersey Transit, will address some of the transit issues that we'll be confronting in the days to come.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. As Governor Christie mentioned earlier, the PATH train service is going to be resumed here at this station this afternoon. We expect to run a full rush hour service. There's a couple of pilot trains that are going to be run in the next hour or so, but all indications are a go. Safety inspections have shown us that there's no reason why we can't run the system at full peak rush hour capacity. For the afternoon, New Jersey Transit is going to be expanding bus, rail, and light rail services as much as possible to make up for the closure of the rail line here at Hoboken. For buses, New Jersey Transit will increase service on the number 126 line between Hoboken and the Port Authority bus terminal. Customers will be notified where to get the service. A bus shuttle will run between Hoboken and Secaucus Station on a load-and-go basis. Customers will be directed to this service by ambassadors who are wearing safety vests. The Hudsonbergen Light Rail is currently suspended into and out of Hoboken Terminal. There are safety inspections ongoing as we speak. We hope to have that resume later, but at this point we're not ready to announce that. A bus shuttle will operate from Hoboken at the alternative bus service on Observer Highway to Newport Pavonian. All 8th Street to Hoboken service is terminating at Newport Station. All Tunnelly Avenue to Hoboken trains are terminating at 2nd Street. All West Side Avenue to Tunnelly Avenue trains are running regular service. Customers who normally travel through Secaucus are urged to go to New York Penn Station for service. All other New Jersey Transit rail service is operating regularly. However, customers may experience some overcrowding and possible delays due to congestion. Thank you very much.
MTA Chairman Prendergast will talk about how this is going to impact New York and the plans that he and Governor Cuomo have to deal with that. Chairman?
Thank you, Governor. Our West of Hudson service is operated, Metro North is operated by New Jersey Transit. We have about 1,200 daily customers on the Pascack Valley line and 1,800 customers on the Port Jervis line. And for this evening's rush hour, those customers should utilize the Hudson service to go to the Terrytown and Beacon stations, where we will have buses to be able to transport them to their ultimate destinations in New York west of Hudson. We will be cross-honoring NJ Transit monthly commuting tickets. And in the morning, and depending on how long the terminal is out of service, we will have bus service in those stations, picking up people in those stations west of Hudson and bringing them back to Beacon and Terrytown. Thank you.
And Governor Cuomo and I can take some on-topic questions.
Governor Christie,
Brian?
what would you say to the
Brian?
high rate of speed? Do you
Brian?
know miles
Did
per
you
hour?
get any indication at all from MJ Transit folks or any of the engineers on the scene as to when the tracks could be used again, not the terminal, but the tracks, to bring trains back into some sort of regular service?
Not yet, Brian. Understand there are a few things at play here. First is the structural integrity of that portion of the building. Second is the power supply to the building. As you know, there's energized tracks there. As soon as this happened, you've seen the way the damage operated. There were wires everywhere. Port Authority Police, Transit Police made the decision to immediately cut power to that part of the building to ensure the safety of the people who were there. That was the right decision. And so we have to determine when it would be available to restore power to those areas. So there's a number of different aspects of this that have to be looked at by our engineers. Governor Cuomo's pledged full support of the Port Authority along with me to have their engineers working with transit engineers to deal with what we need to deal with here. The good news for some of our commuters who use PATH is that this will not affect PATH service at all, and they'll be able to continue to use the Hoboken terminal for PATH service. The structural integrity of those places are fine. So I think the governor and I both feel the same way. The most important thing is the structural safety of that building and the safety of the people that were there. Remember, the one fatality we did have was not someone on the train, but someone who was killed by debris that was created while they were standing on the platform from the crash. And so we need to make sure that the entire portion of that building is safe from a power perspective and a structural perspective, so that we don't have any unintended injuries going forward. So that'll be our first priority. When we determine that it's safe, we'll reopen the building, but we won't reopen it a minute earlier.
Do you know how fast the train was going, Governor?
Governor,
Following up with him, please. Thank you.
thank you, Governor. As far as all of this damage, even to use of the tracks without the terminal, would you say it would probably be several days?
Can't tell you, Brian. You know, I'm
It's
not.
not going to be overnight, though.
It will be closed today. That much I can firmly tell you. Beyond that, as you know, I have many skills. Engineering is not one of them. No, it's true. No, it is not. Engineering is not one. I'm going to leave this one to the engineers. And unless Cuomo has some training that he hasn't revealed to me yet, I think we'll both leave it to the engineers.
Do you know how fast the
Governor.
train was going, Governor?
We don't know a lot about why it happened. The engineer is fully cooperating with law enforcement in the investigation. And as I said in my opening statement, I learned a long time ago as U.S. Attorney, as I know the governor did as Attorney General. You don't jump to conclusions, you let the facts lead you to those conclusions. So we have nothing really to add to that. The one thing, as Governor Cuomo mentioned, that we know is that the train came in at much too high a rate of speed. And the question is, why is that? And we won't know that for some time. As soon as we know, you can be sure we'll share it with the public. But it's not appropriate at this time. No, I don't. And it's not appropriate for us to comment beyond that at this time. Let's let law enforcement do their job.
Were the most serious injuries outside of the train or in the train?
David?
Governor, could you talk about positive train control? Where are we with that in New Jersey, and could this have possibly prevented this from taking place?
Again, David, that's speculation that can only be based upon the cause of the accident. And until we know the cause of the accident, we're not going to be able to know what steps we could take in the future to avoid an accident like this. So what I will tell people is pretty clear, that the commitment of New Jersey Transit, their first priority is the passenger safety. And so if there are measures that are recommended based upon the facts that are revealed for the cause of this accident, then New Jersey Transit will work to implement those, and we will share those things with our partners at the MTA to make sure that passengers in New York and New Jersey who are commuting over this river, under this river every day, are kept as safe as possible.
Were most of the injuries inside the station or outside the station?
There's no real point as to speculating what happened. Why did the train come in so fast? Was there a medical condition? What happened with the conductor, etc.? We have no idea. And I don't think the speculation is especially helpful. The NTSB will come up, they will do a full investigation, you'll have the facts. Once we have the facts, if there is a lesson to learn, we will learn it. But positive train control, etc., until you know what caused the problem, you don't know the solution. And as Governor Christie said, let's find out the facts first, and then let's follow the facts. First order of business as to helping the commuters tonight, tomorrow, the next day, you will never have had a more coordinated approach between the MTA, New Jersey Transit, Port Authority. All agencies are working together. We're sharing personnel. We're sharing equipment and resources in a way we have never done before. This regional collaboration is only getting stronger, and we want all commuters to know we will have the system up and running as fast as humanly possible.
Some people
Where
are
most of the
nervous,
injuries-
Governor. What would you say to those
Yes.
people who are nervous?
We can't, listen, we're not going to speak to any specifics regarding the one fatality. We want to make sure that all next of kin are appropriately notified, and this would not be an appropriate notification. So we're not going to speak to that, except to let you know that we are in the process of making sure that the victims' families are notified and handled in a dignified and appropriate manner. And beyond that, it would be just wrong for us to comment on.
Were most of the serious injuries in the train or in the station?
4 cars, 1 engine. 4 cars, 1 engine, engine in the back.
Were most of the se-
NJ Transit will release that information as appropriate. We're not releasing it at the moment while we're in the middle of a pending investigation.
were
Do you
most
know
of the
the
injuries
exact
in the
speed of the
train or in
train?
the station?
Trajectory of the train. What exactly happened when it hit? Did it jump onto the platform? Did it jump up to the ceiling? What did it do?
It took out, there's an old style, as you know, we've been in there, an old style ceiling that's in that portion of the train station. It took out a number of the supporting structures for that ceiling. The ceiling in that area collapsed, and it came to a stop at the wall that leads into the terminal.
Has foul play been ruled out?
But we have no indication that this is anything other than a tragic accident. But as Governor Cuomo has said, and I've said, we're going to let the law enforcement professionals pursue the facts. The folks from NTSB and the Federal Railway Administration, they're working in coordination with our state Attorney General, Attorney General Perino, and our state police to gather all the facts, and then they'll brief us appropriately when they come to conclusion.
You
Well,
said you've
most
spoken
of-
to the White House. What have they said to you?
The rate of speed, what's the source of that information? How do you know it's going fast?
From eyewitness accounts.
Governor Christie, I'm sorry, question. Do we know how long the investigation might take?
Don't. The investigation takes as long as it's going to take to come to an appropriate conclusion. But I can say this, we have some of the best professionals in the Port Authority, in MTA, and New Jersey Transit, anywhere in the world on mass transportation. And so I have a great deal of confidence in them and our law enforcement officers to come to a conclusion as quickly as any force of people could come to a conclusion.
Were most of the
said you've
injuries
spoken to
in
the
the
White
train
House,
or in
Governor.
the
What
station,
did they
or
say?
what's the
Most of the
region?
injuries were in the train.
You said you've spoken to the White House, Governor. What have they said to you?
That would have prevented it from coming in at such a high rate of speed.
Again, we don't know because we don't know what the cause of the high rate of speed. Again, I heard what, no, listen, you speak English, I speak English. I heard what you said. Now you let me answer, and that's the way the system works. The fact is that we don't know what the cause of the high rate of speed was. Therefore, we cannot answer the question as to whether any other apparatus or systems could have slowed the train down or not based on that. So we're not going to speculate on that, and I appreciate your question.
You've said you've spoken to the White House, Governor. What have they told you and advised you?
The White House just offered their condolences for the victim and for their prayers for the survivors, and made sure that the NTSB and the FRA were coordinating with law enforcement here, and offered any further assets that we, the governor and I, deemed necessary to deal with the problem. It was a brief conversation, but the White House offered their full cooperation, and I thank them for reaching out and offering that cooperation.
And in terms of the exact speed of the train, you said that the
Don't know the
NTSB...
total number on the train. There were 108 injured and 1 fatality. as we said
How
before.
severe are those numbers?
Well, they vary. Some were people who were able to walk in, and some who were taken by New Jersey Transit bus to a hospital, graded up to those who were removed by ambulance. So there's a varying degree of them. Right now, we don't have any reason to believe that there'll be any further fatalities, but again, that's going to be things that are determined by the care and treatment that are given at the hospital, the severity of the injuries as they came in. But right now, the only fatality we have is the one that we mentioned already.
And Governor Cuomo, what was your experience with the positive train control after the Westchester crash?
Well, look, the positive train control system, no doubt, can be a benefit depending on the circumstances. And what we're saying here is we don't know what the circumstances were that caused the train to continue at that rate of speed. It could be any number of things. It could be personal to the conductor, it could be an equipment failure, it could be anything. We have no idea. So before we start to prescribe what could be a solution, you really have to define the problem. You won't have the problem defined until after the investigation. I know human nature says, how did this happen? We want to know, and we want to know now. Unfortunately, we won't know today. We won't know until the investigation runs its course. But the train did come in at a high rate of speed. When you see the damage, if anything, I think the silver lining is that there was only one fatality, really was a blessing. And as soon as we have the facts and we know how it happened, if we can come up with a reform and improvement that makes sure it doesn't happen again, that's exactly what we'll do. In the meantime, we're cooperating on the investigation, we're cooperating on the reconstruction, we're cooperating on expediting the commute for tonight and for tomorrow morning and whatever we need to do the next day by pooling all of our resources, whether they be New York resources or New Jersey resources or Port Authority resources, because we want to make sure we're doing everything we can for the commuter.
Do we know an exact speed of the train?
Let me just add to what Governor Cuomo said so people can feel assured by this, not just by our words, but by our actions. The fact is that over the last 6 years that Governor Cuomo and I have served in these positions together, we've gone through Hurricane Irene, Hurricane Sandy, and a number of terrorist attacks. What that's done for our relationship and for the relationships of our staffs has been these folks know how to deal with a crisis. That's why the first call that I received this morning after getting the call from my staff about this accident was from Governor Cuomo, who was preparing to go to Israel and canceled his trip in order to be here to help manage this crisis with me. So what the people of the region need to be assured of is, I do not remember a time in the history of the state when I've been observing it, when you've had a better and more tested relationship between the governor of New York and the governor of New Jersey and their respective staffs. And so when we say we're going to get this up and running as quickly as possible, people have a track record to watch from Irene, from Sandy, and from terrorist attacks, that the governor and I know how to do that, and our staffs know how to do it because we've been tested, as have the people of New York and New Jersey been tested. And that's one of the things you saw in there this morning. That regular commuters left the safety of where they were standing to rush to the train to help first responders evacuate injured people off the train. This region has developed a resilience that is admired by the rest of the world because of the way we've been tested. And so we have challenges, as the governor said, and we both believe that. But we have a system in place between the two of us and our administrations and an incredibly resilient people that allow us to be able to confront these things very directly. So when we have more information to give, we'll hold another briefing, whether it's directly by the governor and I, or whether it's by our folks who are in charge of the minute-to-minute operations of this. We'll let you know. We appreciate you coming out today, informing the public, and we'll continue to provide information regarding the evening commute if there's anything to add to what Commissioner Hammer and Chairman Prendergast already told you. Thank you all for coming today.
Thank you, Governor. Governor, will that come out by both offices or just your office?
Hi everyone, it's Tara Johnson reporting live in Hoboken for Time. Just heard from Governor Christie of New Jersey and Governor Cuomo from New York. They confirmed there was 108 injuries and 1 casualty. The casualty was not from someone on the train, it was someone in the terminal who was a bystander. Be sure to check time.com for more updates on the story.